My brother was killed by Fidel Herman with his own hands. He forced my brother to donate his bone marrow to his first love, threatening to replace the bride if my brother refused. But on the wedding day, he asked me to be a bridesmaid and congratulate him and his first love. My brother was so enraged that he died on the spot. What should have been a happy day became the day of my brother's death. I left, trembling as I held my brother's body. However, Fidel was passionately kissing Selena and announced that the wedding would continue. In the evening, the official account of the Herman Group posted to celebrate this perfect match. Fidel personally reposted it, making people all over the internet envious. Hundreds of thousands of people liked it. Finally, I've married you. You are the one who made my heart flutter in my youth, and the one I'll hold hands with for the rest of my life. I had just left the cold mortuary and silently liked the post of the two of them. Then I went home, packed my things, and prepared to leave. But I saw Fidel pinning down Selena and passionately kissing her in the room that my brother had personally decorated for me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. When I got home with the death certificate, it was already late at night. The night wind blew, and all I could feel was the bone-chilling cold. As soon as I entered the house, my steps froze. Beautiful high-heeled shoes were scattered everywhere, and the expensive dress was torn to pieces, mixed with men's suits and ties. They were strewn all over the place. It all showed how impatient the owners were. Selena appeared 3 years ago and intruded between Fidel and me. What was originally a relationship between two people became a triangle. At first, I would be angry with Fidel, but he was always very impatient. He always said, "Do you really want to drive Selena to death before you're satisfied?" If I said a few more words, Fidel would get angry with me. At that time, I really loved Fidel. I couldn't stand it when he had a cold face towards me. Not only did I apologize to him with a submissive attitude, but I also asked my brother to take good care of Selena. I comforted myself that Fidel still loved me very much, and he would eventually see my goodness. I was too young and full of pride at that time, always having the courage to charge forward for love. But the price I paid was losing my only relative. I indifferently kicked aside the garbage at my feet and placed the death certificate on the table. The moment I looked up, I saw Fidel pinning down Selena and passionately kissing her in the room that my brother had carefully decorated for me. Selena's face was flushed, and there were successive hickeys on her fair shoulders, extending downward. When he saw me come in, Fidel slowly got up from Selena, leaning against the headboard with his bare upper body. He looked at me with a half-smile. "What? Do you want to watch the live version so much? Or do you love me so much that you want to join our wedding night?" He was especially casual. "By the way, didn't you say your brother was dead? Then why are you still coming to me? You're such a bitch." Hearing his words, I felt extremely nauseous. I bent slightly, reached out and touched my belly, and suddenly laughed. When Fidel was diagnosed with oligospermia, even his grandmother came to talk to me. There were too many people eyeing the Herman family, and she hoped that I could take the blame on myself. Over the years, I had taken so many bitter medicines for him and tried so hard to have a child. God knew how surprised I was when I felt my pulse and found out I was pregnant. I had been looking forward to it every day, hoping to hold the person I loved the most on our wedding night and tell him this great news. Now, I looked at him and felt so disgusted that I couldn't straighten up. "Let's break up, Fidel." I slowly straightened up and said calmly, "In this life, no, we will never see each other again from now on." I had been so determined in my love until now, but I had lost everything and failed completely. I stopped looking at Fidel and turned to leave. I wanted to take the wedding gift my brother had prepared for me and then leave, holding the porcelain doll in my arms. I couldn't hold back my tears. This was made by my brother himself. I touched the smiling doll with trembling hands. I didn't know what I pressed, but my brother's voice suddenly came out. "Little son, be happy every day." Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. "I'm sorry, brother. I'm really sorry. I want to take my brother away from here and find a beautiful place to be happy forever." Wiping away my tears, I held the doll and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Fidel got dressed and came out of the room, striding straight towards me. He grabbed my arm fiercely, his tone extremely impatient. "Are you throwing a tantrum again?" He used a lot of strength, and I frowned in pain but couldn't shake him off. Does your sickly brother who's obsessed with his sister know that the chance he sacrificed his life for was wasted by you throwing a tantrum so easily? Fidel looked down at me, his tone full of mockery and playfulness towards me and my brother. Fidel, he's dead. Do you still want to humiliate him like this? I stood up and reached out to grab his collar. Fidel, how many times has he saved you? Can't you show him a little respect? I first met Fidel when I was 14 years old. He was being chased by a group of people, and my brother risked his life to hide him. My brother took a beating and even developed a chronic cough for the rest of his life. But he never betrayed the fact that he had hidden Fidel. Later, when people from the Herman family came, we found out that we had saved a young master, and my brother still didn't ask for anything in return for his kindness. When I was 18 years old, Fidel suddenly fell ill. My brother donated a liver to him and saved his life again. My brother never asked for any reward. An uncontrollable anger burst out from the bottom of my heart. There was nothing but hatred in my eyes as I looked at Fidel. How could you? How can you say that about him? Enough. Fidel pushed me away violently. I was caught off guard and hit the corner of the table hard. Fidel's face was almost ferocious as he almost roared. Stop bringing up that old kindness again. I've tolerated you two for a long time. Martina, don't you just want me to repay the favor? Haven't I been good enough to you all these years? I always thought that when the heartache reached a certain level, one would become numb. But his words were still like a knife stabbing into my heart and twisting, making me bleed. Fidel. I got up little by little and smiled softly. It was you who pulled me and begged me to let us live in your house back then. It was also you who cried to me and said you didn't want to die. So I went to my brother to ask for a liver donation for you. You said you loved me. You went to your grandmother to ask for our engagement. You wanted to accompany me for a long time, and you wanted me to always be by your side. You've forgotten all that, and now you're blaming all the mistakes on me. I clearly saw a flash of emotion on Fidel's face. The tense atmosphere gradually dissipated, and he moved his lips, instinctively reaching out to help me. Looking at Fidel's action, a wave of bitterness welled up in my heart. Just as I was about to say something, I was interrupted by Selena. Fidel, did sister come to ask you for money? She asked as if it was just an innocent question. Why don't you give it to her? She said her brother was dead at the wedding. It seems she really is short of money. Hearing the mention of money, I instinctively looked at Fidel. Sure enough, he froze in place again, as if remembering something, and his face turned ugly. I smiled self-deprecatingly. Some days ago, Fidel and I had the biggest quarrel ever. It was just because Selena had a rare disease and needed a bone marrow transplant to survive. But I knew she wasn't really sick at all and was just pretending. The reason she wanted my brother's bone marrow was simply that she couldn't stand my brother being good to me. But Fidel didn't believe me and just said I was vicious. To protect my brother, I told Fidel that as long as he gave me 10 million yuan, I would cancel the engagement and stop pestering him. After getting the money, I started looking for a place suitable for my brother and me to live. But I didn't expect that for the sake of Selena, Fidel would force my brother to donate his bone marrow on the condition of changing the bride. Not wanting my brother's sacrifice to be in vain, I still agreed to get married. But Fidel went back on his word in public at the wedding. He even asked me to be a bridesmaid to bless them, which led to my brother's tragic death. Fidel, why is she looking at me like this? It's so scary. Selena pouted and acted coquettishly towards Fidel. But there was nothing but mockery and pride in her eyes when she looked at me. Sister, although I'm married to Fidel, he told me that this is just to take better care of me. The only lady recognized by the Herman family is still you. She spoke in a cautious manner, as if she had endured great grievances. Why are you still holding on to me and throwing tantrums with Fidel? Since she started speaking, Fidel's face had become darker and darker. Martina, did you hear that? Why can't you ever think for me? Can't you stop being so selfish? The veins on Fidel's forehead bulged, and his anger was clearly visible. Apologize to Selena, and I can let bygones be bygones. I suddenly found it ridiculous, and as I thought about it, I couldn't help laughing out loud. Your Mrs. Herman can go to hell. I don't care about it at all. I picked up the death certificate on the table. We will never see each other again. Fidel, you too. The scumbag man and the bitch woman better be locked together and never part. After saying that, I walked towards the door. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my scalp. I was pulled by my hair and fell heavily to the ground. Subconsciously, I held the fragile big-bellied doll in my arms tightly, not caring that the death certificate fell aside. Fidel in front of me was clearly extremely angry. "Martina, why don't you know how to be satisfied?" He choked my neck tightly, his eyes full of hatred and ferocity. I opened my mouth in pain, but I couldn't breathe. "Are you so vain? By relying on that little bit of old kindness, you must become the official Mrs. Herman and make everyone envy you for rising to a high position. Right." My face turned purple, but I couldn't struggle. I held the doll my brother made for me in my hand. This was the last thing my brother gave me. If I let go, it would break. Then I would really have nothing left. Just when I thought I was going to die, Selena suddenly walked over. She was holding my brother's death certificate in her hand and said in a surprised tone, "What's this?" "Fidel, Harvey is really dead." Fidel instinctively let go of his hand, strode over to Selena, took the death certificate, and looked at it carefully. I directly fell to the ground sitting. My suffocated lungs were filled with air again, and I coughed violently due to the choking. "Yes, he's dead. Now do you believe it?" I mocked. Fidel's eyes were full of complex emotions. With some shock, Selena gently patted his chest. "Sister's attitude just now might be because she's too sad. Fidel, she didn't mean it. Let me comfort her," she said as she walked up to me. I looked at Selena in front of me warily. If I hadn't been deceived by her so many times before, looking at her like this, I might really have thought she was a kind and understanding person. "Sister, actually, Fidel has been good enough to you and your brother," she said, looking at me with pity while turning her back to Fidel, and the mockery in her eyes was undisguised. "On a small scale, he has kept you from being like stray dogs on the streets. On a larger scale, he has allowed you to cross social classes and access circles that you could never reach in your lifetime." Selena bent down and got closer to me. "Your brother's death can only be said to be due to his weak fate. He couldn't enjoy good fortune." She smiled at me, and suddenly her voice dropped so low that only the two of us could hear. "You're right, Martina. I'm not sick. I deliberately wanted your brother's bone marrow. I just can't stand you being happy. Why do you always have someone to love you? Oh, by the way, I specifically told the doctor not to give your brother anesthetic. Your brother was really stubborn. He didn't make a sound. Be content. He didn't die from the pain." I felt cold all over, and it seemed that my blood was flowing backward and rushing to my brain. All the cells in my body were screaming to kill her. To kill her. "You bastard." I almost gritted my teeth and squeezed out the curse. I used all my strength to pounce on her, pinned her down, and bit her neck hard. "Fidel, help me," a panicked voice rang out. Feeling the smell of blood between my lips and teeth, I felt an indescribable sense of pleasure in my heart. The next second, a sharp pain came from my waist. My hair was grabbed tightly, and I was forced to raise my head. Selena covered her neck and sobbed helplessly. The red blood shattered Fidel's last bit of reason. One slap after another landed hard on my cheeks. My ears and mind were buzzing. "You're crazy, bitch. Do you want to kill her?" Fidel was like an enraged lion, kicking me mercilessly in the stomach and sending me flying a long distance. The moment I was kicked away, it seemed as if time had stopped. I instinctively looked down at my stomach. The next second, it was as if a knife had been inserted into my stomach and was stirring crazily. A stream of warmth spread down my thighs. I was in excruciating pain, but a twisted sense of pleasure welled up in my heart. The child that Fidel had always been longing for was killed by him with his own hands. This might be the only chance for him to be a father in his life. I suddenly looked forward to the moment when he would break down after knowing the truth. He lifted me up from the ground in one motion, grabbed my neck and sneered. "Since you keep saying that your brother is kind-hearted, fine, then I'll be merciful." He took out his phone with his other hand and made a call. A bad premonition welled up in my heart. I desperately raised my hand, trying to pry apart his big hand that was gripping me. "Assistant J, go and dismember Harvey's body and send it to various anatomy rooms for donation." After saying that, he sneered and looked at me. "Your brother is so kind-hearted. He will surely agree if it's just for dissection and research." "Right." My eyes widened suddenly, and I struggled violently, mumbling and trying to speak, but I couldn't say anything because of the chokehold. He looked down at me haughtily. "This is the price you have to pay, Martina, for hurting Selena." As he spoke, Fidel threw me aside casually. as if discarding a piece of garbage. He turned around, picked up Selena, and strode out. Reflect on your actions here. When you've thought it through, come and kneel down to apologize to Selena. I fell to the ground, and my vision was covered by the blood flowing from my head, becoming more and more blurred. I could only see Fidel's retreating back. Tears silently rolled down my face. I struggled to crawl towards the broken doll. It was broken and stained with blood, but it was still smiling. Little son, be happy every day. I felt colder and colder, and my eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Brother, I'm really happy. I can see you again. A gentle and powerful voice rang in my ears, soothing my pain. In the pool of blood on the ground, my heart slowly stopped beating. Vaguely, I seemed to hear the sound of the door opening. I tried my best to open my eyes, but I could only see the dragon-headed walking stick falling into the pool of blood, mixed with my brother's gentle expectation. The dragon head seemed to be moaning, as if mourning for the dead baby. Martina. Someone was calling me. I tried to open my eyes wide, as if I wanted to see her clearly. Why is it her? When I regained consciousness, I was already dead. Thinking of the last person I saw, I felt a little sad. Grandma was the kindest person to me in the Herman family. She always valued dignity the most, but when she saw my body, she knelt on the ground with tears streaming down her face, begging me not to die. But I couldn't even say a word of comfort to her. Pulling back my thoughts, I looked down at Fidel, who was now furious at the doctor. I felt even more disgusted. I wanted to leave but was trapped by his side. If there are any scars left, I'll hold you accountable. The doctor, however, said indifferently, the injury is very minor. It's impossible to leave a scar. After saying that, before leaving, he gave Selena a meaningful look. Selena panicked and quickly grabbed Fidel, saying, I'm fine. Fidel, you're just too worried. You care about me so much. Sister will misunderstand and be angry with me again later. Fidel immediately raised his voice. How dare she? Don't worry, Selena. This time, I will definitely make her kneel down and apologize to you. I won't let you suffer this grievance without justice. As soon as he finished speaking, the assistant came in. Master, the old lady wants you to go back. Fidel's face instantly turned extremely ugly. I asked her to reflect, and all she does is tattle. Selena looked at Fidel with a worried expression. Fidel stroked her hair to comfort her, then turned to the assistant and said, I'm taking Selena skiing. Also, tell the old lady that since I've married Selena, I can't just ignore her. If Martina doesn't apologize to Selena, I will never come back. I stared blankly at Fidel, who was so resolute. This was the first time he had defied the old lady, and it was actually to make me apologize to Selena. What a pity. I smiled self-deprecatingly and looked at my semi-transparent hand. I was already dead. Even if I wasn't dead, I would never apologize to Selena. In the waiting lounge, Fidel leaned on Selena's shoulder a little dejectedly. Selena, what on earth does Martina want? I didn't give her a wedding, but I also said that the only Mrs. Herman recognized by the Herman family would be her. You're in such poor health, and I just want to take good care of you. Why can't she tolerate you? Selena stroked his hair and comforted him in a low voice. Sister just can't figure it out for now. You have to give her some time. You're the only one who understands me. I felt so disgusted listening to them that I wished I were deaf. I wanted to leave but could only be forced to follow Fidel. I numbly watched as he took Selena on trips, and the two of them were so sweet. When Selena went to change her skiing gear, Fidel stood alone in the ski field, looking at the continuous snowy landscape in the distance, seemingly lost in thought. I floated closer and heard him muttering, Martina hates winter the most. She's never seen snow. Maybe she'll like it if she sees it. I was taken aback. Did he actually think of me? I wonder if she has realized her mistake. Hearing this, I felt a wave of nausea. My biggest mistake was falling in love with you, which eventually led to my own death and my brother's death. At this moment, a strange voice came from behind, and Fidel instinctively turned around. Mr. Herman. The man in front of him was tall and imposing, but he was gentle and doting when he looked at the woman in his arms. Mr. Jackson, why are you here? Fidel was extremely surprised, and I knew why he was so astonished. This was a challenge given to him by Grandma. As long as he could cooperate with Mr. Jackson, Grandma would hand over power to Fidel. He had failed every attempt for so long and didn't know where to start. Thinking that I had facilitated this cooperation for him, I could have kicked myself. After getting that 10 million yuan from him, I originally planned to find a place to settle down in the future. But when I came here to play, I met Mrs. Jackson. As a result, Mrs. Jackson almost flew out of the boundary due to improper operation. In the end, it was me beside her who saved Mrs. Jackson, but I ended up in the hospital myself. It really is you, Mr. Jackson laughed heartily. I heard that you just got married not long ago. Are you here on your honeymoon with your wife? Fidel instinctively wanted to refute that she wasn't his wife. After thinking about it, the one he actually married was indeed Selena. Yes. Are you also here to play with your wife? Mr. Jackson looked at the woman beside him and tapped her on the head. She likes skiing, and we've been here for a long time. We missed your wedding. I'm sorry about that. It seems that Mrs. Herman didn't tell you. Mr. Jackson and his wife looked at each other and smiled, then looked at Fidel with praise. You really married a good wife. All right, we'll be going now. The cooperation details have been sent to your group. You've already been in touch with Director Sun. Have a great time. Mr. Jackson left happily with his wife. Fidel was left standing there, looking dazed. He was unexpectedly showered with a lot of praise. What was it that Selena didn't tell him? However, his ecstasy came later. As soon as Selena came out, Fidel hugged her tightly. You're really my lucky star. Selena was also confused. But since Fidel pulled her and walked forward, she didn't have a chance to ask. Only I watched it all, hating myself and regretting what I had done. Forget it. Grandma has treated my brother and me like her own grandchildren all these years. Consider it a repayment to Grandma. Rumble. A huge sound rang out. I turned my head and saw a helicopter hovering over the ski field. And finally it landed steadily. It was the people sent by Grandma. Grandma, even if signing the cooperation is worth celebrating, there's no need to rush to bring me back. Right. Fidel, who rushed into the house in a hurry, didn't notice the strange atmosphere at all. Accidentally seeing the white flower pinned to the butler's chest, Fidel frowned directly. Uncle Son, wearing that flower is really unlucky. After saying that, Fidel ran to sit beside Grandma again. Grandma, since Selena and I have held a wedding, can you let her in? Grandma looked a bit tired and gave Fidel a deep look. Where do you put Martina when you say that? Fidel instinctively frowned. Is she throwing a tantrum again? Hasn't she reflected on her actions after all these days? Grandma, I think. Slap. A clear slap interrupted Fidel's words. He covered his face and looked at Grandma in disbelief. Why did you hit me? Grandma slammed her walking stick on the ground, and her voice trembled a little. I have lived a life of integrity, but in the end, I raised such an ungrateful thing like you. Fidel was stunned. Grandma, what are you talking about? Back then, you knelt here yourself. You knelt for 7 hours, to beg for the engagement with Martina. Grandma stood up straight, holding her walking stick, and pointed at the ground with tears in her eyes. I instinctively wanted to step forward and help her, but my hand passed through her body. To save you. That young man Harvey even donated a liver to you. Fidel, without my siblings, would you have the comfortable life you have today? Yes, I owe them a debt of gratitude. But hasn't our family given them enough in return? Fidel's anger flared up. If it weren't for our family, who knows where they would be struggling to survive? Could they live the life they have now? Do I really have to sacrifice my whole life for this bit of kindness? Grandma looked at Fidel, who was so obstinate, with deep pain in her eyes, and said in a sorrowful voice, what kind of life have they lived? Fidel, Harvey's body was scattered, and he couldn't rest in peace after death. Martina died with her unborn child and couldn't close her eyes in peace. You, as the heir of the Herman family, Harvey's brother, and Martina's fiancé, yet you were out there touring with a mistress. Fidel, you're fickle and have no conscience. You've cut off the Herman family's lineage. You're a murderer. Do you know that? Grandma's words were full of grief. She couldn't understand how her well-behaved grandson had become like this. Every time she closed her eyes these days, all she could see was the image of me dying with my eyes wide open. Fidel's ears buzzed, and his mind went blank. Why couldn't he understand Grandma's words? Could Martina be dead? How could that be possible? He didn't make her die. She loved him so much and was so obedient to him. How could she die? And die with her unborn child? He knew his own situation well. As he thought about it, Fidel suddenly laughed out loud, looking at Grandma with full of distrust in his eyes. Grandma, I know you like Martina, but this time she really did something wrong. Have you seen how badly she bit Selena? The more Fidel spoke, the more confident he became, and his tone became impatient. You don't need to tell such lies to deceive me for her. I said that if she doesn't apologize, I will never see her again. You too, at your age, you're just fooling around with the younger generation. Grandma's eyes widened suddenly, and she covered her chest, trembling. I was so anxious that I paced around. Grandma, don't get too angry with this jerk. The butler, Uncle's son, quickly stepped forward and gave Grandma some medicine. It took a long time for Grandma to recover. The old lady, who had been proud all her life, slumped back in the chair, looking at the strange grandson in front of her. Fidel, however, looked at Grandma with cold eyes. Martina must apologize. There's no room for discussion. Grandma, take care of your health and rest well. I'll be leaving now. Grandma's lips were still a bit purple, and she trembled a few times but didn't say anything. Looking at Fidel's stubborn back, a tear rolled down her face. Old Chen, I didn't raise our grandson well. I wanted to comfort Grandma, but I could only follow Fidel and leave. In the evening, I watched as Fidel coaxed Selena to sleep. Then he got up and walked to the window, unconsciously rubbing his phone. The phone screen lit up and then went dark. I watched as Fidel, feeling irritated, opened his phone again, and his gaze fell on the chat page with me. Our conversation stopped on the day of his wedding. Whistle. I'll tell you some good news tonight. I also followed his gaze and looked at that sentence. That was the message I sent to him humbly after I took the 10 million yuan and had a falling out with Fidel. I wanted to tell him on our wedding night that he was going to be a father. Subconsciously, I touched my flat belly. I can only say that he doesn't deserve it. Fidel suddenly moved and typed a few words. Are you still angry? He quickly deleted it right after typing. After thinking for a long time, he finally sent a message. You don't need to drag Grandma into your act. I'm not angry anymore. Come and apologize to Selena, and then we'll go get the marriage certificate. After sending it, he looked at the screen with certainty. His expression was as if he was sure that I would agree to him immediately. I smiled self-deprecatingly. If it were before, when my brother hadn't died, I would have really agreed to him eagerly. But my brother is dead. And I'm dead too. This apology, this reply, he'll never get it in this lifetime. Fidel held his phone and waited for 2 hours. When he came to his senses and looked at the unresponsive chat window, his face turned extremely ugly. He threw his phone hard on the table and turned to go to the study. In the middle of the night, the assistant was woken up by the phone ringing again. Check Martina's whereabouts for the past few days and bring the report to me tomorrow. The assistant looked at the time with sleepy eyes and said, Master, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson have invited you and your wife to dinner tomorrow. Have you forgotten? Fidel woke up suddenly, looking at the time and thinking about his abnormal behavior. He cursed in a low voice. Then give me her itinerary tonight. After saying that, he hung up the phone in a hurry and then went back to his room and forced himself to rest. I watched him go back to his room. I didn't quite understand, but I didn't think too much about it. After all, it doesn't matter to me what he does anymore. The next day, when Fidel and Selena walked into the private room, I realized that it was a gathering of Mr. Jackson's friends. Mr. Herman, nice to meet you. Mr. Jackson and his wife came over. Fidel smiled slightly. I'm honored to have Mr. Jackson's favor. Mr. Herman. Selena flicked her hair and stood beside Fidel, about to introduce herself. Mrs. Herman, was there something that prevented you from coming? Mr. Jackson saw his wife winking at him frequently and helplessly opened his mouth. The friends gathered around began to speak one after another. Fourth, what kind of look is that? Isn't Mrs. Herman standing right here? Yeah, you and sister-in-law went to play at that time and didn't attend Mr. Herman's wedding. But we were there. It was a proper marriage. Genuine and not fake. Being said like this, Fidel didn't know how to explain. The polite smile on Mr. Jackson's face froze, and he turned his head to look at his wife. Mrs. Jackson was not as euphemistic as Mr. Jackson. She gave Fidel an unfriendly look and directly said in a sarcastic tone, Is that so? Dear. Then you gave the cooperation to the wrong person. I took a fancy to baby Martina. Not some random person. Everyone could see that something was wrong. And the surroundings suddenly fell silent. Martina. Fidel only paid attention to Mrs. Jackson's words. What's wrong with her? Mrs. Jackson sneered and looked Fidel up and down. Don't you understand? The cooperation was secured by baby Martina. She said she was your Fidel's wife and wanted me to give you a chance. You seem to have quite a few wives. Mr. Jackson shrugged and stood behind his wife, silently showing his support for her. No. Mrs. Jackson, you've misunderstood. Fidel immediately understood what was going on. But Mrs. Jackson directly said, I never misunderstand. Take your mistress and get out of my place. Until he was driven out and stood by the car. Fidel was still in a trance. When did Martina get on such good terms with Mrs. Jackson? Why didn't he know about it? But Fidel felt an inexplicable sense of joy in his heart. He knew it. Martina was still thinking of him wholeheartedly. He took out his phone and this time, without hesitation, he directly called me. The phone that used to be answered instantly now rang until it automatically hung up. But no one picked up. Surprisingly, Fidel didn't get angry. Instead, he rushed into the car and wanted to go back to the old mansion. Fidel. A wronged voice sounded outside the car. Fidel woke up as if from a dream and then noticed Selena. Selena. You can take a taxi home first. I have something to deal with at the old mansion. After Fidel said this impatiently, he stepped on the gas pedal and drove home. How absurd. I smiled softly. For the first time, Fidel left Selena behind for me. It was actually after I died. Grandma. Ask Martina to come out and see me. As soon as Fidel saw Grandma, he got straight to the point. I've forgiven her. Let her come and see me. Grandma waved her hand wearily. Butler's son bent slightly and took out a stack of contracts and handed them to Fidel. What is this, Grandma? I have something urgent to talk to Martina about. I don't have time for this now. You want to kick me out of the Herman family and sever our relationship. Fidel's voice suddenly rose. Why? He looked at Grandma with an incredulous expression. Grandma looked at him in silence and motioned for him to keep reading. I could tell that Fidel's anger was about to reach its peak. He threw the contracts on the ground hard and was about to say something when he caught a glimpse of the clear big words. In an instant, his anger dissipated, and a rush of ecstasy swept over him. I floated closer to take a look. Oh, it was my prenatal examination report. I'm going to be a father. He was overjoyed, and he stood out of place among everyone around. Isn't this a good thing? Isn't this a great thing, Grandma? He was even more puzzled and lowered his head to look through the report in his hand. Suddenly, he froze in place and stared fixedly at the content on the new page. He was like a statue frozen in place, showing no emotion at all. I floated over with great interest. It was my death report. The name Martina was clearly written on it. Fidel read it over and over again, his lips moving but making no sound. This is fake. Fidel suddenly looked at Grandma nervously, his eyes wide open. This is fake. Now that there's a great-grandchild, I'm useless. Right. So you fabricated this just to find a reason to get rid of me. Martina. Martina won't agree to this. Grandma laughed softly, got up and walked in front of him, and slapped him hard. Are you sober now? You murderer. Isn't there a surveillance camera in the villa? Did you just leave everything behind and not care about anything? Our Chin family will never tolerate a scumbag like you. I advise you to turn yourself in as soon as possible. Fidel didn't believe that I was dead. He stumbled into the house where he and I used to live. It had already been tidied up by the people sent by Grandma, except for some of my small belongings on the table, which were the relics Grandma had sorted out. There were no other things of mine left. Fidel stared fixedly at the playback of that day on the computer. His eyes were scarlet, and his chest was heaving wildly. I pursed my lips in boredom, floated to the table and lay down, looking at my pitifully few relics. I looked at the broken porcelain doll with pain in my heart, although I knew I couldn't touch the outside world anymore. But I still stretched out my hand to touch it again. When I felt the touch between my fingers, I was startled. When I quickly withdrew my hand, I accidentally knocked over the box. What was going on? I was a little nervous as I watched Fidel rush over. Could he see me? He couldn't see me. Instead, he knelt on the ground and looked at my relics. I let out a sigh of relief, floated down to the ground again, and looked at these small things. This can't be true. This can't be true. Fidel mumbled and gathered the small things on the ground and put them into the box. Snap. I turned my head in surprise and saw that his face was covered with tears. He was trembling and holding a small ceramic whistle. But he accidentally dropped it on the ground. The fragile whistle broke into 2 pieces with a sound. I was so angry that I wanted to slap him twice. But I felt that Fidel's mood beside me was not right. He stood there like a wooden man, staring blankly at the whistle that had broken into 2 pieces on the ground. His eyes were filled with disbelief, panic, pain, and regret. He was stunned for a long time. So long that I thought the shock was too great and it had made him stupid. Suddenly, he reached out his hand, which was shaking badly, and picked up the half of the whistle. I was a bit curious about his reaction. In my memory, this whistle was a toy my brother made for me when I was a child. I didn't play with it much after growing up. Fidel seemed to like it quite a lot. I floated beside him and looked down to study the whistle. The whistle was broken into 2 pieces, and you could clearly see that there was a colorful crystal embedded in it. My heart warmed slightly. My brother had hidden a treasure for me here. He must have been afraid that I would be sad if I accidentally broke the whistle. So he hid such a small thing that I loved when I was a child inside it. Why is it here? Fidel murmured in shock, and the disbelief and pain in his eyes became more and more evident. Selena clearly said that she accidentally lost it. Why is it here? I didn't understand what he said. Fidel suddenly rushed out like a madman, holding the 2 halves of the whistle. Selena! Fidel roared like a madman in the room. Selena came out of the room and was startled when she saw Fidel with red eyes. Fidel grabbed Selena's collar and looked crazy. Didn't you say that you saved me back then? Didn't you say that this crystal was lost? Despair flashed in Fidel's eyes. Why is it with Martina? Why? He seemed to be clutching at the last straw. Tell me, was it you? At first, Selena had a confused expression on her face. But as soon as Fidel opened his mouth, she looked understanding. Seeing the truth in front of her, she admitted it very straightforwardly. It really wasn't me. But I also knew it was Martina. I was just a hostess. I accidentally heard you and your brother talking about this matter. But I was afraid that Martina would tell you. So I've been targeting you. It's a pity that she died without telling you. Ha ha ha. Selena was about to say something more, but Fidel grabbed her neck, and her face turned red. Why did you lie to me? How dare you lie to me? A broken look flashed in Fidel's eyes, and he seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Haven't I been good to you? You said it was too cold back then and you got a lingering health problem. I've been paying attention to your health every day and every moment for these past few years. You said you watched me leave from the pit back then. How many times have I left Martina behind to accompany you and leave with you in these years? In the end, you tell me it really wasn't you. Fidel laughed like a madman, ignoring Selena's struggling in a sorry state. Selena, I want you to pay with your life. I floated aside, looking at the absurd scene in front of me, and my head ached. Vague voices rang in my mind. My name is Fidel. You take this crystal. The nurse sister said it's a wishing stone and can make me see my parents. Now I'm giving it to you. You must hold on and wait for me to come back and get my wishing stone. I remembered. When I was very young, I secretly went to play in the mountains and accidentally met Fidel, who was lost all alone. When I was taking him down the mountain, in order to pull Fidel who accidentally stepped into a trap. I fell into a deep trap. He gave me this crystal and asked me to wait for him. But I waited for my brother first, and he took me home. I was just too young and caught a cold, and I had a high fever for several days. When my memory was unclear, I gave the crystal to my brother and kept shouting, Siong, Siong. My brother made a whistle for me, making it able to make a sound from then on. I forgot about this matter, but it made Fidel hold on to it for more than 10 years. He had felt guilty for so long. Over the years, in the face of the suddenly appearing first love, Selena, he had tried his best to make up for his debt, but he had let me down again and again. All the memories came back, but I somehow wanted to laugh. I didn't feel touched at all. I just felt it was absurd. It was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but bend over and laugh. It turned out that even the favor of saving someone's life had different levels of importance. When he was a child, he was grateful for a helping hand. When we grew up, my brother saved him again and again, but he thought there must be some ulterior motives. Fidel, you're really disgusting. I actually saved you in my life. Are you crazy? As soon as Fidel let go, Selena gasped and cursed. What does Martina's death have to do with me? Didn't you kill her with your own hands? Selena really thought it was ridiculous. The person who killed her is clearly you. You're so stupid. If you had trusted her even once, how could she have died? You didn't cherish her when she was alive. You forced her to death and now you're blaming me. I'm at most an accomplice. The murderer is you. Shut up. Fidel roared and picked up the fruit knife on the table and stabbed it at Selena. If it weren't for you lying to me. If it weren't for you lying to me. He stabbed again and again as if he were crazy. How could I not trust her? I must be the one who trusts her the most. Little son definitely won't die. She's just angry with me and hiding. I said I want to spend my whole life with her. As long as I kill you. She will definitely come out. She will definitely forgive me. Selena's eyes widened. She stared fixedly at the crazy Fidel and slowly smiled. You killed Harvey. Unless you die, she will never forgive you. You're talking nonsense. Fidel threw away the knife and punched Selena in the face again and again. I took a sharp breath and tried my best to avoid the bloodstains within the range I could move. Although it couldn't stain me. It won't be like that. It definitely won't be like that. Fidel was covered in blood and muttered nervously. He looked down at the pool of blood beneath him. In a trance, he seemed to see that day when his girl lay in a pool of blood and watched him leave with a look of despair. He shakily picked up the knife, grinned with his eyes shining, and kept mumbling, if I die, she will forgive me. She will come to see me. The knife stabbed deeply into his body, but he couldn't feel the pain. The joy of being able to see little son overwhelmed all his senses. Fidel stabbed himself frantically. The bloodstains inevitably spilled on my clothes. Instead of passing through, they landed on them. Martina. Fidel looked at me in surprise. I knew you were still alive. Great. Great. I looked at the crazy man in front of me expressionlessly. I'm dead. Fidel's smile froze, but he ignored it as if he hadn't heard. I finally found you. Do you know how worried I was about you? There was a familiar tone of blame in his voice, and it made me feel disgusted again. Don't make me worry like this again in the future. Okay. I looked at him deceiving himself and said coldly, don't worry. We will never see each other again in the future. With a large amount of blood loss, Fidel's face turned pale. I suddenly moved closer to him and looked at the surprise and expectation shining in his eyes. I smiled softly. Fidel. He looked at me. I raised my hand and slapped him hard. I will never forgive you. Blood debts must be paid with blood. The night wind blew, and all I could feel was the bone-chilling cold. No. Fidel struggled to pounce forward, but he only caught empty air. Only then did he realize that intense pain enveloped his whole body. He started to feel cold. He fell to the ground and hugged himself desperately. In a daze, Fidel saw the young Martina from back then. He happily rushed forward to find me, but he heard the young me say in a tone of disgust, I regret saving you. Then I turned around and skipped away holding my brother's hand. He wanted to run to my side and say that he was wrong. But he couldn't catch up no matter how hard he tried. He could only watch me leave, hearing me say, brother, I never want to meet Fidel again in my next life.